Mr. Zelensky comes to Washington. The Ukrainian leader meets with President Trump today, a day after the White House announced the next meeting between Trump and Putin. Plus, what the heck is going on with the government shutdown? What will it take for either side in the standoff to blink? The Post's politics reporter Ryan King joins me to try to figure it all out. And life in space. Billionaire Jeff Bezos says millions of humans may live out of this world sooner than you may think. Those stories and more today, Friday, October 17th. I'm Caitlin Becker, and this is the New York Postcast. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is at the White House today to speak face-to-face with President Trump about ending Russia's years-long war with his country. Earlier this week, I mentioned that he asked the United States for Tomahawk missile systems, ones that could hit targets deep into Russia. Well, before the Ukrainian president's arrival, President Trump spoke with Zelensky's enemy number one, Vladimir Putin.
I did actually say, would you mind if I gave a couple of thousand Tomahawks to your opposition? I did say that to him. I said it just that way. He didn't like the idea.
After the call, Trump announced that the two leaders agreed to meet in person again, likely in the next 2 weeks, Trump said, this time in Budapest, Hungary, to, as the president posted online, quote, bring this inglorious war between Russia and Ukraine to an end. Also, while we're talking about the president, a quick update to the story I told you yesterday about Trump's former advisor turned adversary, John Bolton. As expected, he was officially indicted on Thursday on 18 charges concerning his handling of sensitive information. 83-year-old Senator Mitch McConnell took a tumble on Thursday, and it was all caught on video. Honestly, it was a pretty nasty fall. The 7-term senator was walking from his Senate office to the Capitol when he grabbed the arm of an aide, and then he went down hard. McConnell was helped back up, and he even offered a little wave before being escorted away. A spokesperson said that he's okay and that he went on to cast multiple votes around the shutdown and the federal budget. Unfortunately, this is nothing new. The senior senator from Kentucky has suffered several falls and health scares in the past few years, including freezing up on camera multiple times. And after a series of spills earlier this year, the man who first took his seat in the Senate in 1985, when the average home was roughly $100,000, a gallon of gas was about $1, yours truly was born, well, he was forced to briefly use a wheelchair. Now, at the time, a spokesperson said, quote, Senator McConnell is fine. The lingering effects of polio in his left leg will not disrupt his regular schedule of work. McConnell previously announced that he will not run for an 8th term when this one is up next year. A top U.S. Army general stationed in South Korea admitted that he turns to ChatGPT when it comes to making some command and personnel decisions in the Army. Major General William Hank Taylor, commanding general of the 8th Army, told reporters, quote, Chat and I have become really close lately. I mean, same? But I used it to help me build a closet organizational system and renew my car registration. Now, the general was quick to clarify that it helped him build models to use in day-to-day decisions, not combat. Well, that's good, I guess. Now, while this may be the first time a military leader is admitting to using AI so directly, the government has been pushing forces to integrate AI and other tech, as potential adversaries like China and Russia are doing the exact same. I guess it's not as crazy, or at least as rare as it sounds. In one public example, an algorithm piloted a specially equipped F-16 fighter jet in a mock dogfight. While the Pentagon has pushed adoption of AI, it also cautions that the potential for things like chatbot to leak information, that's a real threat, and leaders should be cautious. Today's day 17 of the government shutdown, and there is no end in sight. But the fact is, unless you're a federal employee, you probably haven't noticed it. You've probably only noticed the political bluster about it in D.C., which is so commonplace at this point it barely elicits a meh. Despite the finger pointing at the White House and on Capitol Hill, not a ton has changed for people yet. As I've told you here before, one key sticking point is healthcare. Democrats want to extend COVID-era Obamacare subsidies and roll back Medicaid cuts from the big beautiful bill. On Thursday, Senate Majority Leader Republican John Thune offered to hold a separate vote on just the Obamacare part of it all, and so far, Democrats have said no thanks. So how will this end? When? And what happens to the average American between now and then? To help me try to find answers to those those very questions, I'm joined by the Post political reporter Ryan King. Ryan, it's a full-on standoff and no one is blinking. There is an argument to be made that both sides are getting what they want politically here. Democrats standing up to the president and Republicans putting all the blame in the left while firing a bunch of government workers. So how do we get out of this? What is it going to take to end the stalemate?
Yeah, that's really the big question. I think ultimately someone is going to have to blink, as what has happened at the end of the past couple government shutdowns that we've been through. But what we're seeing right now is we're seeing a little bit of a shift in Republican strategy towards the shutdown fight. Democrats don't seem to have budged at all. But the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, had offered Chuck Schumer a commitment to basically take up a standalone vote on some sort of extension of the Obamacare subsidies after Democrats hypothetically backed the stopgap continuing resolution that they want to reopen the government. So that was a slight shift in strategy. Republicans had been open to doing some sort of reform on the Obamacare subsidies, but Thune had basically offered to do that in exchange for Democrats opening the government up again. And then I think the real big thing that we've seen is Thune also announced on Thursday that he would take up a vote on Ron Johnson's bill, which would basically pay essential government workers. Non-essential government workers who are furloughed wouldn't get paid, but the essential workers would get paid during the government shutdown. So that's going to be really interesting when that comes up for a vote next week, and we see how Democrats react to that.
Right now, the shutdown isn't really affecting the average American. I feel like it's affecting people like you and me like pretty significantly, just because now we have to talk about it at work. But on the average, people haven't really noticed. Mail's still getting delivered. The military is being paid. Now, could that change, though? I mean, something like that, something like those things stopping seems like it might be the thing that would motivate politicians.
I think the biggest thing that could change is the impact on air travel, because, air traffic controllers, TSA workers, they're not getting paid, and we're seeing a lot of them call out sick, basically.
And this was a mess going into this. When the government was running, that was already a mess.
Exactly. And they're trying to hire more air traffic controllers during the shutdown and aren't really able to pay them. So it's definitely very messy. And that's something that could pick up as we get closer to the holiday season. We've been through government shutdowns during holidays in the past, but it could get worse because we'll have had the government shut down for a much longer period of time going into the holiday season and past government shutdown fights. The other, big thing that could obviously change is what we've seen coming up for a vote next week with Ron Johnson's bill to pay government workers who are required to show up to work, the essential workers. That could change the dynamic of this because it could basically soften the partial government shutdown effects. So we'll see. But right now, it's neither side kind of shows any sign of relenting right now.
Is this shutdown different than ones we've seen in the past? It seems like, to me, after having covered these for so many years, politicians are kind of shrugging it off. We're nothing to see here, no real urgency. Is that just me, or does this feel different?
Yeah, I think that definitely is the biggest thing that feels different is right now, it seems like the public is kind of numb to this. Like, it's like, oh, my government shutdown, like it's like kind of, what people almost expect. Like Congress is just so gridlocked and stuff. And in prior government shutdown fights, it was kind of more the sky is falling. This is a big deal. So it definitely feels much more low key in terms of public discourse. Tensions are definitely still very high on Capitol Hill. A lot of lawmakers very mad at each other. I think the other thing that's kind of a little bit different is the two sides are they're so unified, like within their respective camps. Like in past government shutdown fights, when Republicans were demanding Obamacare get eliminated in the 2013 fight, there were Republicans that were at odds with that strategy, and vocally so. And then in the prior government shutdown fight over the border wall fight, there were Republicans that were also uneasy about President Trump's demands there, but went along with it. This time around, it seems like a lot of Democrats that we're seeing are really dug in on this, and their base is very dug on this. And, Republicans feel really strongly that if they give an inch here, then Democrats will come back again and try to negotiate, use the government shutdown fight to leverage big concessions from them. So I think that's one of the other big differences as well.
The government may be shut down in D.C., but our D.C. bureau certainly is not. Thank you so much for staying on top of everything.
Thank you.
We're learning more about a sad story out of Orlando, where a Disney superfan took her own life this week on the property. Relatives say Summer Eckwitz flew from her home near Chicago to Walt Disney World without telling anyone. And this was unusual for her. Her family created a missing persons post on a Reddit page for Disney fans, asking anyone who saw Eckwitz at the resort to call the police. Sadly, their concern wasn't misplaced. Her body was found a few days ago at the Contemporary Resort. That's a hotel right next to the Magic Kingdom. Last fall, Eckwitz and her husband honeymooned at the most magical place on earth, and 2 months later, she shared a celebratory post online announcing that she was pregnant and sharing pictures of a sonogram. She had not posted publicly since. The fourth richest man on Earth may be aiming to be the richest man in space. Jeff Bezos was speaking to a crowd at an Italian tech week recently and said that the next 20 years will be a golden age for humanity. While many predict doom and gloom for humans as robots and AI take over, I refer you to the earlier story about Army AI, Bezos thinks we'll be happier, working less, and living in space.
In the next kind of couple of decades, I believe there will be millions of people living in space. That's how fast this is going to accelerate.
He says robots will handle much of the dirty work humans don't want to do, say perhaps on the surface of the moon. They also don't need to breathe, so that probably helps too. This begs the question, though. What the heck will us humans do with all this extra time on our hands? Sounds like we'll be watching a lot of Lord Bezos' Prime Video from a space pod on Mars. I don't know where I stand on living in space or even visiting space. Millions in space in the next few decades? I don't know. I feel like something's missing there. Is there some sort of space condo being built right now that we don't know about? Sounds like it needs infrastructure that we should be planning now. And now, of course, I'm obsessing about this, and I'm going to obsess about that conspiracy all weekend. Perfect. Before you go down that rabbit hole with me, don't forget to like and follow the New York Postcast wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And since it's Friday, keep an eye out for this weekend's Postcast Postmortem. That's our crime update on YouTube. I'll see you Monday.